Hello and welcome everyone to episode 1 of the SkyTemple Podcast, an exercise in enthusiastic rambling about Explorers of Sky ROM hacks. My name is MaxSchersey, coming to you live from the US West Coast and from down under in Australia. I'm joined by yakkomon. Are you ready for us to wing it today? The first of many excellent podcasts that are going to get 1 million listeners.
I am so ready, and I am so ready for just fame and fortune. 1 million listeners, here we come.
Facts. First of 1 million. If you're watching this or watching this on the YouTube application, or listening, I still haven't actually decided if we're gonna upload this to a real podcast app. Might happen. I don't know. You're one of 1 million. You know what I'm saying? You're part of the movement. For SkyTemple to have a podcast. Okay. First question you might have to yourself is, why in the world is there a SkyTemple podcast? And there's a simple reason for this. SkyTemple, a program that has been around in public form. The public beta was released in summer 2020. And for all intents and purposes, this is the beginning of PMD ROM hacking. There have been some PMD ROM hacks before this. There have been some forms of modding. However, it was extremely inaccessible. Yeah, there's a common thing that I see on the internet of people going, well, how come it took so long for ROM hacks to get started? It's because there wasn't any tool worth a damn for people to use until SkyTemple, basically. So for all intents and purposes, it started about 2 years ago. Now, 2 years later, the SkyTemple community has recently finished up its third hack jam, and after this point, we now have 60 listed projects on the SkyTemple hack directory, which means these are not only hacks that exist, they are hacks that are in some kind of playable form, either totally completed or in some kind of demo form, which is awesome. But with this, an issue has arose where there are people who have not been in on the loop since 2020. And they're coming in late and seeing all these projects and are getting a little overwhelmed with choice. And right now, the SkyTemple community has no real kind of like cultivation and no tastemakers. And this is something that was very much on purpose, because at the beginning, this is a very extremely collaborative, extremely supportive community, and still is, of course. But over time, it has become clear that this philosophy is something that may not totally always be in the best interest of growing the scene for the pure consumers of the community, as well as not really properly celebrating those that are pushing the scene forward, which is something that has clearly been happening. You know, it's sort of a if everyone's a winner, no one is. That type of thing has started to creep up. My belief is that there are two solutions to this. One is a SkyTemple podcast, in which we plan to talk about some of these projects, in reality, most of these projects in detail, after the initial hype cycle has come and gone, right? Because, as we all know, the internet loves its recency, right? Once you get your YouTube reaction videos out of there, you get your Reddit posts, you get your tweets and whatever else. All that's just based on recency, no kind of preservation going on. We are going to be talking about projects after the hype cycle has come and gone. The dust has settled, and ideally we're going to be getting some interviews with creators to get their perspective on things, because there's a lot of smart motherfuckers in this community, and I want this podcast to be a platform for creators to talk about their projects, what inspires them, you know, the stuff they were trying to do, and where they think the scene is going. I think that we should just be talking about it. Pretty much that. I'm going to be talking with yakkomon about his various hacking projects later on in the show as well, so look forward to that. But first, second of those solutions that we were talking about, yakkomon, are you excited for this one?
I am definitely excited. I think this is something that I think I think this is a great idea, and I hope you guys are all excited for this because I think, as Max said, there is just a gluttony of content out there, and I've seen it, and you've seen it too. Just a lot of people just don't know where to start, and don't know, I guess, what are the real standout hacks that really shine in this community. While we all, I mean, every hack that I've played is fantastic, but this is. I'm really excited. So, yeah, Max, do you want to reveal it, or do you want me to reveal it?
You could go ahead. I felt like you were going into it right there. Do it.
Okay. All right. So we are introducing here on the SkyTemple Podcast the first annual SkyTemple Hack of the Year Awards. So right now, as you may know from the Hack Jams, that we do give out awards each Hack Jam for various different categories, and also a best hack at the end. These are decided by both a jury that volunteers their time to play all these hacks, and we also have a community vote as well. And really, we do want this to be a community celebration over all else. And if if we sort of decide ourselves, it's going to be very very biased, I think. So we want it to be all about you. More details will become available as we get closer to the end of the year, and everything that's planned and that'll be sent out hopefully soon. But I know this is something, Max, you've wanted for a very long time. And yeah,
That's
I mean,
correct.
I'd love to hear more, I guess, about why you want to do this, and if I haven't already talked about it enough.
No, definitely. Couple things. So, that bullet that you were stuck on for a while. See, this is the downfall, folks, when you're doing a podcast of just doing off the riff bullets. Because he was reading that, he's like, "What are you even talking about?"
You can tell it's the first episode.
Yeah, it's the first episode. Give us a break. On for one of these points here, the way it's written on the sheet says, "If I have any say in the matter, it'll be very over the top and very stupid." And by that I mean, in my head, what I have envisioned. I don't want to lock this in, so I probably shouldn't be saying it on record, but whatever. Subject to change. All subject to change, folks. What's playing right now is there's going to be some stupid, campy live stream, awards show where we're going to have Jeff Keighley and company holding a fucking card and saying what the hack of the year is going to be. Not literally, obviously. You know how it is. Jeff Keighley, he is that guy, right? I'm not getting him confused with someone else.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
No, I am a Game Awards. And you have outed me as a Game Awards watcher. I'm guilty as charged.
God. Okay, I watch it too. It's a sinful indulgence. Once a year,
as a Nintendo gamer, I get as a Nintendo gamer, I get disappointed every year.
Oh man. So yeah, this is something that I personally wanted this to happen last year. It's just that my life is pretty busy with between work, a lot of personal stuff, and also crunching the hell out of Explorers of the Spirit, which released earlier this year, and will 1000% be nominated for these Hack of the Year awards, as I'm sure you're going to nominate your own shit as well.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Max. I'm recording this after we already went through the whole podcast. I realize this part sounds a little weird because I say that we are both going to nominate our hacks. What I really meant is that we are going to submit our hacks. That was just the wrong word being used. Nominations are still being done by a jury, as we talk about later on. Okay, back to the show. But yeah, this year is, long story short, it's a much better position for me to, as well as others on the mod team and other parts of the community that I think maybe willing to help out with all this stuff. But in terms of just like organizational and getting the ball running, there is stuff planned. Like I said before, I don't want to just talk about everything all in detail here because one, it would go on forever, and two, I don't want to lock everything in totally. I guess if there is interest in just having a rough outline of how everything's going to go sent out, that's something that can be done. Just let us know in I don't know how you'd let us know. Comment down below, and press the like button and subscribe. And what else do you do?
Hit that bell. I think that's what they say.
Yeah, that's right.
I like watching all videos.
Yeah, all that shit. And download, subscribe to us on podcast services if we're doing that. I still don't know if we are. Probably not. If there's popular demand, we may do that.
Yeah.
This episode 1. I feel the need to say that again. And yeah, that's kind of leading into the reason why that we want to talk about Hack of the Year awards so early, because this is going to be uploaded in June 2022. The reason why is because we need judges. For the hack jams that occurred, judging has historically only been open to those that have created hacks, and everyone else is kind of relegated to being you can get our community vote. And there's a reason for that, because some of these categories, talking about stuff like some of these categories like, you know, most technical, best custom
Dungeon
assets,
design.
Dungeon design. This is all stuff that there's kind of a perception that if you don't even work with a program, then can you vote on these kind of things? Well, you can, but are you going to have as informed of an opinion as someone who regularly works with the program and knows how hard it is to do this stuff, basically?
Yeah.
We're throwing that out the window for Hack of the Year because we're trying to put a higher emphasis on, while, of course, obviously having that background is something that's still helpful for all those same reasons. We think it is more important to just open up the field to anyone that has played most of these hacks, because we're anticipating there's not a lot of people who have played everything. You know, a lot of people have kind of voiced that it's been hard to find time to even play through all those hack jam hacks, and a lot of those are like an hour long, and they have a decent amount of time to play through them all. So it's one of those things where personally, I would not want anyone to judge my hack if they have not played through it all. I guess that's kind of how I thought of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally like for me, like outside of the hack jam, I have only personally played 2 hacks. Yours, Max, the Explorers of the Spirit. Download it, please. Play it. You will not be disappointed.
Facts.
And
Facts.
And also another one which we hope to have in a future episode, PMD Abridged, which I'm sure you might have seen out there on YouTube and all that. I know it's attracting a bit of a crowd outside of SkyTemple a little bit, but yeah, those are the 2 hacks. Again, guilty as charged. I apart from the hack jam hacks that I judged for the last one. I haven't played very many, so yeah, the struggle is real.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, because I know that there's people out there who play every new hack as soon as they come out. It's just, if you guys are trying to be judges, I'm just throwing this out there early, because by the time judges are going to be decided, it'll be probably it'll probably be about like 4 to 6 weeks roughly until voting's done. The way I see it, some of these projects are long. And as we're going to talk about, work in progress hacks are going to be eligible as well. So if you're trying to play through, I mean, Explorers of the Spirit is a 20-hour game. You know, a lot of these work in progress full-length hacks are hovering around like 8 to 12 hours right now, and there's multiple of those, and I'm anticipating that they're probably gonna want to nominate themselves, because why not? Right? Like, give me a chance to get that sweet, prestigious award. In theory, I guess we'll see how it plays out, but it seems like a lot of creators, when I kind of threw this idea out there, were very excited at the proposition. Now, not for necessarily awards, Hack of the Year awards, because this is being dropped on this podcast, but just kind of the idea of like celebrating creators in general. They're all for that, obviously, but I don't know. Sometimes you wouldn't think so, because sometimes you get communities that are very what's the word I'm looking for? They couldn't care more or less.
Not supportive, I suppose.
I guess that's not what I'm looking for. Very whatever. I don't know if you can hear that. I was trying to smack my damn desk and get an idea boggling into my head. It works like that sometimes, but
the SkyTemple community is definitely
enthusiastic.
It's one of the most
supportive.
Supportive, like out of all the internet communities, and I think it is probably one of the friendliest, supportive communities I've been a part of on the internet. So and I think the fact that I think it's just like, for me personally, I think the recognition as well of the effort that has been put into all of these hacks, if nothing else, like I think this is going to be one of those things where even where just being nominated is probably going to be an honor in and of itself, because it means that someone has taken the time to play your hack and actually think, you know what, I really enjoyed this hack, I'm going to nominate it for Hack of the Year.
Right. No, 1,000%. The competition is very tough. As I think a lot of creators will kind of share the sentiment of, you play through other creators' works and you just go. There's a lot of defeatism in this community, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, because I'm kind of guilty of this as well. But you play through others' works and it's like, oh my god, this is so much better than anything I do. I suck. I'm the worst.
I know. I know. That's how I feel about all the ASM wizardry. Like, I will never get to that level.
But that's what this podcast is for. Definitely. That's what this podcast is for, because you're wrong if you think that. And all your stuff, if you're looking at it from an unbiased lens, as unbiased as you can be in reality, which is not unbiased at all. But when you think about it from an unbiased lens, there's a lot of things that everyone does. Correct, yes. No such thing. We kind of went on a tangent there. Point being, if you want to be a judge, you have probably like 5 to 6 months until judges are selected, so start playing through every hack that released in 2022 now. I would highly suggest that. And also, you may want to go back and play hacks that released in 2021 as well, because they will also be eligible for nomination if their creator so wishes.
Yes. Do it now. Go.
Immediately.
Immediately now. Stop this podcast and start playing hacks. I think you better wait. I think you better wait until after the podcast is done. Then play hacks.
Yeah, really important. We have to get our metrics up so that we can start shilling immediately. Start selling out to Raid Shadow Legends and all those guys.
Absolutely. I think I reckon we need how many views do we need before we become a partner?
I think 1 million. We established that at the start.
Yes.
You are 1 in 1 million.
Currency I want to promote.
The next category on this, or next header, I should say, on this Google Doc is categories. Hack of the Year categories. I think this is a very exciting part, because if you're somebody who's nominating your shit, this is where you get to start to headcanon, like, okay, I'm probably going to get nominated in this one, Oh, I'm definitely gonna win this one. If I don't, then everyone else has no taste because I'm the best ever, and whatever, all this other stuff. I don't know. Maybe you think that. Maybe you think the opposite because we were just saying that everyone's like very defeatist in this community. I don't know. We'll find out. Um, Categories that we have. It's not going to be the exact same as a hack jam because some of them don't make sense. Like best usage of gimmick. Like there's no gimmick. So, our categories are hack of the year, self-explanatory. Best hack in progress. This one I think is really important. Because personally, I would like to encourage more full projects. To put it bluntly, I think that is going to be how this community grows. Both in just getting more random people to play stuff, and by extent, there's kind of a chain reaction there where there's more exposure, leads to more creators coming in, leads to more projects, leads to more exposure, etc. So I think a part of that is we should be promoting and celebrating people that are trying to make large scale projects. And I guess I should just say what we have listed as the limitation right now. And I quote, any hack that is only submitted in this category hasn't previously been submitted in any other category and hasn't yet reached a 1.0 or equivalent release is eligible for this category. The same hack can be eligible for this category across multiple years as long as it still fits the prior criteria. So basically, if you are a hack in progress, you can't nominate yourself for any of these other ones. You have to be like a 1.0. You get your like one year that you get to submit your hack for all the other awards. Yeah. But you can submit for the best hack in progress award every year and get your recognition.
Absolutely. The next category we have is best gameplay design, or I guess it's what we think is a more accurate description of best gameplay from the hack jams. And I guess for best gameplay design, we're mostly referring to systems outside of dungeon design. So we're talking about various tools that may have been introduced, various new menus or mechanics or that kind of stuff, which has been seen in the jams, and we've seen some great new mechanics, and like I said, the ASM wizardry that happens because of it. Yeah. So this hack category is really for that type of, I guess, design choices that have been made in the hacks. Do you mind if I do? Yeah, I'll do these because these are, I think, really up my alley.
Okay.
In terms of in terms of what they are. So best narrative and self-explanatory. I mean, for me personally, and we'll probably get into it a little bit later when we talk about my projects, but for me, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon has always been about the narrative. However weird and wonderful it is, whether it be the great characters that you have in Gates or the absolute batshit craziness of Super, or just the emotional heartfeltness of Explorers. I think PMD for me has been about the narrative, and so there have been a lot of hacks out there that have tried to recreate that magic, and a lot of them have really succeeded in that. And this is really the category, or the categories, because there are a few others that really sort of make those parts of the franchise shine. So we've got best narrative, we've got best single cutscene, and for this, creators will be able to self-submit up to 2 scenes to be added to the judging pool. So it's not like, maybe people can think of 8 or 9 or 10 different scenes that, I like that one in that part. Oh no, I like that. They will be self-selected by you, the creators out there. And then there's also best cutscene direction, and this is always, especially when it comes to Explorers, something that I think has made it the lightning in the bottle that it is. And this refers to stuff like music selection, actors and character movements, the usage of effects, timing, all sorts of the different things that can really make a scene have that impact. And I think, I'm personally excited, and I have been very excited of seeing the type of narratives that have come out of the hack so far, and the type of hacks that it will be, because I think this is definitely one of the strengths of this, that this allows the franchise, and forgive me for rambling a bit, but Mystery Dungeon, to me, you can tell a much deeper stories that you can with mainline games. Now, I mean, I'm not familiar with mainline hacks, and if they've sort of gone deeper, I think it's still very much about the monster collecting rather than the actual stories. But yeah, I think these three categories, so narrative, single cutscene, and cutscene direction, and those are the three that I think probably I'll be focusing on quite a look to see just what you guys decide is the best.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are both in that same boat where we are, I think we were both almost to look at this list and say, well, best narrative, that might as well just be the same as hack of the year. Which obviously is not exactly true, because that's not the only thing that goes into it. Something else I want to bring up for best cutscene direction, because this is a new category. It hasn't been in any of the hack jams yet. I wanted to include this because I think that's the difference between a fan fiction and a ROM hack, for lack of a better term. And I don't mean that in a stupid ass pretentious way. I mean it as in fan fictions are text, ROM hacks are cutscenes. And that's kind of the difference, because the text is still there, but you have all the extra elements that are going on at the same time, while there's also text. So there's good and bad ways to do that. And there's a lot of people that have definitely been pretty creative and gone outside the box of what they do in the original game with all the same tools. So I thought it was really important to include.
Yeah.
Next couple categories. Best character, creators can self-submit up to 2 characters for the hack that they're nominating. And just a little bit of elaboration on that. There's going to be a self-nomination period where creators will have the chance to... This is around the time when judges are selected near the end of the year as well. Say, I am choosing to submit my hack, which means I am going to hold the judges at gunpoint and force them to play through my hack. And also to kind of limit the scope and kind of make these categories more votable, because in some of these games, if you're going to have best single cutscene, in some hacks you could have 8, 9, 10 different options, and then your votes could get split between all those different cutscenes, that type of thing. That's my primary concern. So I think limiting it to 2, but 2 that the creators want to be nominated for all these. So best single cutscene is like that. Best character, the next one is best boss fight. Along with best narrative, that's another one where I immediately think oh yeah, that's going to be a very prestigious category, best boss fight. And that can be judged based on both gameplay competence and story significance, / a combination of both. So whatever. I mean, it's probably gonna be a combination of both from every judge, I would think, because
Or even if it includes a pretty cool gimmick, like DX does with their, meteor showers for the Rayquaza fight.
That's true. That's true. A lot of different ways that you can cut best boss fight as well, and we've already seen. I don't know if I would just want to spoil every hack I'm thinking of right now, because we have to spread our content. This is episode 1.
Yeah.
So we can't talk about every hack yet, but there's some that come to mind immediately where it's yeah, that could definitely just fights that are very memorable for one reason or another. And then best single dungeon, next category, creators can self-submit up to 2 of those. Best dungeon design, this is a generalized category talking about just dungeons. I don't know. Before dungeon design and gameplay design, they've always been separate categories, but there's been some confusion over what the difference is. And gameplay design is stuff that's outside of dungeons. if that makes any sense. Even though all the gameplay occurs in dungeons, dungeon design is more like you have your systems in place. Now here are the levels you build around it. You know, if you're gonna put it in like in platformer terms, which I know it's not a good comparison, I would say best gameplay is like, how good does your jump feel? How good does your run feel? And then level design is level design. You know, same idea. And then best custom graphics, most unique / creative, also going to be a really contentious one. And most technically impressive, which is both of us.
Category.
Yeah, we both just punt on that, but it seems like last hack jam that was really contentious as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, the last hack jam, there was so many good hacks that really it suffered from the there can only be one winner problem.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There were a few hacks that just missed out. I think just because it was just too close. Like even my score sheet that I used, it was hard to separate at times. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting, I think, to see what the community votes on and how close. And I wouldn't suspect that in a lot of these categories that the votes are going to be quite close.
Yeah, I imagine so too. That's why the hope is to have like a big enough judge pool where we can really get some diversity of thought in here, because these are very, very contentious things in terms of, like you said, it being so close and really just coming down to the preference, where almost you kind of want to take as much, hate to use this word, but take as much randomness out of the voting as you can by having a big enough sample size. That's really the dream of what the panel's going to be. So back to that point from before, start playing hacks and decide who's going to win these awards. Okay, we're at the 30-minute mark, and I don't have anything on here except for the interview. So,
can we take a break? I just need to head up. I just need to do something for 5-10 minutes, and then I'll be back.
Yes. When we come back, here's our ad read. Gonna have an interview about the ROM hack projects that Yakkomon has been working on. All right, we're back from Raid Shadow Legends ad read. Joined by Yakkomon, the co-host, and we are going to be talking about PMD Retold and some of the other projects that he has been working on. PMD Retold is I probably should have asked this before we started, but I'm assuming finished in January 15th, 2022. Will this be eligible for the Hack of the Year awards? Are you going to nominate it?
Well, I mean, this is the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the thing. This hack is not playable, and it will not be put in a playable state. Well, maybe we should start from the beginning, and then I can explain why it's not going to be a playable hack. Because I've had a lot of people ask me, "Is this a playable hack? Where can I get the patch?" And I'm like, nah.
Hold on, but before you get into that, I think what you just said was, yes, you are going to nominate it for best narrative, best cutscenes, best characters, and all that shit. And it will win as well.
Well, yes, it will. It will win. And I think for those that maybe aren't on the SkyTemple Discord, or all the related sort of hack communities, I am known to be a bit of a shill. It's a bit of a, but
Let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning for the folks at home who have been out of the loop. PMD Retold, your primary project, right? Let's say we're speaking to a hypothetical audience who posts on fucking the Mystery Dungeon Reddit and all this shit, and doesn't actually pay attention to the Discord and all that. And isn't, you aren't spending every waking second of your life caring about Pokemon ROM hacks. What's wrong with you? That's what this podcast is for,
what is
folks.
wrong with you?
But for these people, explain what is PMD Retold.
Okay, so PMD Retold is a YouTube web series that's essentially the same Explorers of Sky game narrative that you all know and love, but the big difference is that there is a talking protagonist, and I've also thrown in some lore dumps, some headcanons, some I guess enhancements to the story along the way. But essentially, it is the same story, but with the main character that actually talks. The silent protagonist is no more. It annoys me to no end, and finally they have a voice, or should I say he has a voice, because it is said characters, so it goes back to it being non-playable. But yes, I think he him pronouns are probably best used here.
He him. That's Mitchell Chimchar.
Yes.
All right, so this is a story that you've told me a couple times, but I think it's good, so you should say it on record. What is the story behind the PMD Retold narrative and the inspiration,
Right.
whatever?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is probably something that if you want to go like right back to the beginning, probably goes right back to when I first had the game and when it was released here, which here in Australia we had a different release date to everyone else. Explorers of Time and Darkness came out, and I don't have it on hand at the moment, the date, but it was sometime in 2008. But I think it was like July 2008. And that I think I'm not exaggerating when I said that was probably the day my life changed forever. Forget COVID, forget everything else. This is when life changed forever for me. And I mean, I'd already played through Rescue Team and thought, and that was really the first narrative game that I played. And it was, and back then when I was a younger person, I thought this is the greatest story I've ever heard. And then Explorers of Time, because I picked up Time, that sort of just took it to another level. And I think I've always had an affinity for the game, and I can even pinpoint the moment that it was basically and spoiler alert if you haven't played Explorers, but then why are you listening to this podcast? The part when Dusknoir grabs the players and the partner and goes into the ruined future, that was the moment that it just... I was not expecting that betrayal. It's obvious now, but I was oblivious to all of the foreshadowing, and it struck an emotional chord with me that it's like I actually felt betrayed in real life. I really did. So ever since then, and then the narrative that happened afterwards, I've had a really strong affinity for this game, and it was probably really the beginning of what I like to think of as a sort of my love of narrative focused gaming. But that's another story for another podcast another time. So I guess fast forward, I reckon to 2017 or 2017. I was pretty much burned out on Pokemon. I left the series in Gen 4 and I didn't come back to it at all for a very long time. And then the nostalgia bait of the Detective Pikachu movie came out. Watched that, suddenly got an interest in Pokemon again, and thought, oh, you know what? I'll do a nostalgic playthrough of Sky. And then that kind of, it brought back all of those kind of childhood things of all the headcanons and all that I had. And I thought to myself, well, instead of just remembering them in my head, why not write them all down in like a fan fiction-y type story? And I started writing an unreleased fan fiction, and I never planned on releasing it, where I just put down basically my vision of what I would call like a like a Explorers of Sky anime that we never got. And I started that in August of 2019, and I just did it as like a thing, just to dump everything on the page, and that way it's there in writing. I don't have to forget things or remember things, and it was actually really good. And so I did all of the main game, and I did all of the post game, and I finished that in just under a year. So probably. Yeah, the last post game episode I've got here on my hard drive was created in July 2020, and when I wrote that, I thought, right, that's it, that's perfect, it's fine. This is probably the closest I'll ever get to seeing, the actual Explorers of Sky story the way I like, with the headcanons and all that, there in writing. And then along comes SkyTemple, not a few months later, and I was starting to think, hang on a minute. I could actually recreate this in the game. And so I did. I started. This was even before SkyTemple went properly public. It was just something that the creator put on Reddit, and I just got interested, and then I started playing around with the tool, created the first episode, and I guess I was really excited by SkyTemple, so I was originally going to just make this for myself. I wasn't going to put it public, but I thought, you know what, SkyTemple is that good that I want to put it there for some promotion. And so I posted the first episode onto YouTube, and then I got such a response that people wanted more. And so I wanted more anyway, because I was doing this for myself. And so, it sort of turned into PMD Retold, the adventures of Team Fire Spark, Mitchell the Chimchar, and Sparky the Pikachu. And it's quite interesting. And I actually never named the partner a nickname during my playthrough. Sparky was very
so you
much
just made that up.
I created for the story.
Wow.
I did. I just made that up.
That's incredible.
I just made that up. But it's I know look, I'm info dumping hard right now. I really am.
That's what it's all about. Baby. That's the goal here. No, that's a great. Everyone is now caught up. They understand. There's a lot of love that went into it. I didn't know that how you said you just uploaded it just because you wanted to promote SkyTemple. That is so funny in retrospect, right?
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing, right? And this is the thing, right? And this is why the character in PMD Retold, and it's out there, it's out in the open. It is a self-inserted name. If I knew that this was going to be a proper series that I was putting out into public and not something I would just privately make for myself, I would have used a pseudonym. But my first name is out there now in the public domain. Yeah, yep. I'm gonna be. Well, I mean, thankfully I live in a country where it takes a lot of money to fly too. So I think I'm safe. But yeah, that's the story of PMD Retold, and it's always been something that I've just made for myself, because this is still one of my favorite games of all time. Really, this is very few things have ever topped that.
Something I want to go into. You said before that you wanted this is like a hypothetical. What if PMD Explorers was an anime? And I've said before while talking about hitting my head on the desk again. My hand, rather. I'm sorry, not my head.
Yeah, are you okay?
Yeah. Corrupted Core. One of your projects. While I was playing through that, I was saying that PMD Retold has a real Saturday morning cartoon vibe. I think there's some crossover there. You know, when you get into some of those shonen animes and whatever. But regardless of whatever you want to call it, is there any kind of like direct influence that you had in mind, or some things that made you think like in that style of like I wanted to emulate that, or just this made me feel compelled to write, or anything along those lines?
So, I mean, I think what I was always aiming for, even when I was, I guess, writing the original script, was the narrative, the way that the dialogue is in Explorers is something that is very much like a Saturday morning anime, that a bit like the Pokemon anime or something like that, where it is very kind of Japanese in its inflections and very kind of let's go here character and all that. So I really just I didn't want to try and rewrite what the characters were saying, but rather mold the new dialogue that I was adding and what the characters were saying. Kind of, I guess, yeah, kind of, I guess, I guess Mitchell is in Retold. It is very much that kind of stereotypical, hero of the story kind of thing, where there's, right is always good and stands. And I think so. I think the character itself, I didn't really think like too much about it. I just kind of molded it around. Well, how would it look like if this was an anime? I suppose. I think you are probably right. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that there were definitely what I was picturing in my head, and what when I was writing was that if this was broadcast as part of the Explorers anime that we never got and only got 2 promotional specials.
Very sad.
I know.
Kind of on the same idea there. Personally, some of my favorite parts of Retold are some of the things that are, I guess, very clearly not something that could be emulated in a playable game. There's a lot of stuff in this series that is accomplished through the magic of video editing. Not only just from a gameplay sense, but a narrative sense as well. Some things that it is a PMD ROM hack, but that is kind of a story through which a more I guess cinematic like TV special thing is being told. So I guess my question there is, do you have any favorite bits of those that you kind of want to talk about, or what was the idea behind that? Are those just things that you wanted to implement to kind of like keep the story fresh, or what is it?
So I think really what my idea was for Retold and what I wanted to do was, I think I didn't want to assume that players have actually seen the story beforehand. And so I guess try and make it so there is something fresh for everyone, no matter what. So I think one of the early things that I quite like about, and one of my favorite early scenes actually, is the waterfall cave exploration. And this is really this is this first scene in the game where it's supposed to establish the start of the bond between the player and the partner, but this is where Retold's first divergence happens. And I mean, I won't go into it completely for those that haven't seen, but one of my favorite early things is that it does establish a little bit of, I guess, Mitchell's character, in that he's a chimchar and he gets asked to touch the waterfall by the partner.
Of course.
and then there's so much kind of water-based shenanigans that happens that he discovers he actually has a fear of water, because being a chimchar, he's a fire type, and he's like, what is this instinct that's kicking in here? I've never felt like this before. And so and I guess there's actually a payoff for that later in the story, but that whole thing about the fear of water actually was added after I wrote the original script. Like, that was just something that I thought, oh, what would be funny? Why why not have Chimchar have a fear of water? And also too, sort of like so there's sort of that little kind of that then diverges part of the other story. But then there's also sort of later when they get back, the whole kind of reveal of Wigglytuff being the one that actually, the first dimensional scream and all that. There's a big divergence there, and so I think it sort of hooks people in and sort of shows that this is something that I think is different to the original because of the way that it speaks to it. And there are other sort of divergences too. I mean, I think if you don't like the Team Skull bit, I know a lot of people don't. They get very mad about that. I know, Max, you addressed that in your own hack. I think
correct.
There is definitely I think a lot of people want divergence in that part of the story, and I think it's I think again it's one of the divergences are actually probably one of my favorite parts of the divergences are actually my favorite because they add life, I think, to the story.
Well, sure. I mean, this is a story that people have. I mean, there's people that have played this game 100 billion times. It's any kind of. I almost get the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that it's like almost like you're building up to the divergences because people know it's coming, but they don't know when. So it's when it does happen, it's like, oh, this is a really cool spin on it, while keeping the same general tone, the same idea, but just executed in a fresh way.
Yeah, I think that really, like, how I approach, and I guess this is just something in general that I like to approach. I like to approach stories in general knowing what the end game is so that you can build up to it. That, there are some, say, TV shows and movies and that where it almost feels like they're making it up as they go along and plot holes appear and things don't make sense. But I wanted to make sure with Retold that there was a payoff to actually watching this and knowing that these are unique characters that are different to the characters that you know or you yourself. And I think in a way, and I talked about this before about this being a non-playable ROM. I actually think that the fact that this ROM isn't playable and it is only accessible in a web series, I think in a way, you actually gain more character by losing the sense of self-projection that the game gives you as the player.
Interesting. I wouldn't have even thought of that part of it, but that definitely makes sense.
I just thought of it then.
It just occurred. Okay. Another question I had was, for those that are not aware, PMD Retold is the first ever full-length project to be finished. First episode uploaded October 30th, 2020. Final episode. Shouldn't say final because you're still making episodes, but Chapter 20 episode, January 15th, 2022. Really general question there, but what is it like to be the first one to finish?
It's something that's really... It's something that's... I don't think of myself as kind of thinking, oh, I'm the first to finish. I think just the idea that I have finished and more the reception that I've gotten from people. Like I upload my videos with a live chat function using the YouTube Premiere function. And what always blows me away, and even before that, it's just the people that put comments in my videos and talk about the live chat and all that. Like, I very early on, I've just been blown away by the reception because I guess in my mind I'm kind of thinking this is just the same story you've seen. You know what's coming. You were all super fans here. You know what's coming. But I guess I know watching, say, the final scene, chapter 20, live with people that could watch it and seeing those final scenes, those very emotional scenes, like everyone knew what was coming, and everyone knew sort of the set pieces. They knew how it was gonna, end and everything.
But there's still a reaction.
There's still a reaction, and there's still like people going, "Oh wow, this is brilliant," and oh, you've made such a, you're doing Arceus's work and all that kind of stuff, and it's like wow, like to me, a talking. I mean, look, there's a lot of effort that's gone into us. I know, but in the end, all I've changed is that the main character talks. But I think it's just just, I guess, finishing and knowing that kind of what I did was, it wasn't just a talking protagonist. I think it allowed people to experience the story in a different way, and they really were receptive to how the feedback that I got. And I think that's more what I've taken away from this. Not necessarily that, oh, I'm the first to finish and all that. It's more the reaction that I've gotten along the way, and just the amount of positive feedback that I've gotten from people watching.
Okay, I think we already kind of touched on this a couple times, but I said at the start that you'd be able to talk about this later. Do you hate when people ask you, is Retold going to be playable?
Hate is a strong word. I think. Yeah,
kind of a bait and switch question on my end.
It annoys me, not so much on their end, but on my end, because it's like, oh, if I'd only known that, this was playable, I'd make more of an effort to not make to make it playable. But I'll tell everyone here, for those that have watched Retold and those that want a bit more of a detailed answer, because I sort of saw this as just a video series, I really messed around with scene order, with various things. I mean, the Sentry Duty episode, I mean, it is possible now, but back when I did the Sentry Duty episode, importing sprites into the thing, the footprints were all, downloaded off the internet, and all that, and just used the magic of video editing to do that bit. As well, too, actually, the Sentry Duty, there would be a lot of ludonarrative dissidence. Like, I'd almost have to cut the minigame entirely from the game because there is a narrative. There's a very significant early narrative foreshadowing that Sentry Duty, and it relies on players getting a perfect score. So that's one of the things. But there are also times where I've noticed, say, spelling mistakes, but I've already saved further on, so I can't sort of recall that scene or all that. And I mean, this was before, again, this was the early days of SkyTemple, before we now have stuff where you can just jump to scenes willy-nilly from, calling a debug menu, a custom debug menu and everything. So sometimes I would say, you'd have the crossroads at Treasure Town, and, I'd walk upwards, but walking upwards actually triggers a cutscene that happened like one whole chapter ago or something, because I have to re-record it and then something like that. So there's all this, like, it's become spaghetti code, I suppose. Right. And then the real kicker at the end is that when I was playing around with debug scenes and whatnot, and there was a technical reason that I then ended up losing the majority of the save data and having to redo that from scratch. So there's an entire scene where I'm just reloading all of the variables from and everything. So it, unfortunately, the ROM that I used has been cut and pasted so many times that it's just going to be too much work to put in a playable state. But I think that doesn't matter, because I think going back, I think what I now sort of see with Retold and Team Firespark has kind of become part of the SkyTemple iceberg, if you want, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's almost a bit wrong to then have the same narrative but using a different team or a different thing, and And yeah. And actually, one other thing that I probably should point out is that a lot of the narrative is specifically geared towards the player being a Chimchar and the partner being a Pikachu. Various, references to fire types, or, again, using gendered pronouns rather than, they, them, and all that, because, they are defined characters with defined genders.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if I was making it playable, I'd obviously take that into account, but again, that's sort of another consideration that I'd have to make. It's I think the type of story that I wanted to tell, I'm not sure if it would have the same impact if it was its own game.
All right, we're at a half hour, and I guess we decided before we started that's going to be like our spot. But just a couple quick questions that I think people want to hear.
Sure.
What is your favorite part of Retold?
Well, I personally think that the fugitive arc, the entire fugitive arc from, well, even not just that, but pretty much from the point of which Dusk Noir arrives in Treasure Town all the way to when the partner and Grovile are talking at the top of Sharpedo Bluff and the sun rises. You know the scene I'm talking about.
Of course, yeah.
But that entire kind of 5-chapter arc, I think Explorers Middle is actually probably the strongest part.
Oh, absolutely.
And just like I always get a kick from just watching some of those set piece scenes and the divergences that have occurred, or even just the world building and all that. I mean, I guess if you haven't watched Retold and you want a little bit of an incentive, you will get a little bit more of a canon, I suppose, a head canon into the origins of why the human and Grovile decided to pursue to restore time's balance, I suppose. But yeah, I think that entire bit, I think that is my favorite. There's just one chapter where it's just, reveal after reveal after reveal. It's almost too many reveals, but I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's definitely, like you said, probably the most iconic part of the original game. Personally, Dusk Noir is my favorite character in the original game. Every time he's on scene, it's just gold, and that's when he's most relevant to this.
Absolutely.
Next question I have. We've been talking about Retold a lot. You do have another project that I touched on earlier, Corrupted Core Prologue, released for the May 2021 Hack Jam. And you also have a new hack on the way. I forget if you've officially announced it or not, but do you want to talk a little bit about both those? Just anything you want to add, any kind of progress, things you learn, things you want to do, etc.
Yeah, so I guess for me, and we'll talk about this another time when it gets closer and because if I start talking about the inspirations and all that for these new hacks, that we'll be here for another 45 minutes.
Sure.
But real quickly, Corrupted Core was something I made for the Hack Jam of May 2021, as you said, and this was really like, I was like, right, now I've making Retold, I think I'm good enough, I can make my own game. And I've been wanting to make a game of a certain kind. I won't give too much away because it's kind of, it's a bit spoilery, although I have leaked it to many people in the Discord, but that's okay. And Corrupted Core was really sort of, it was really a thematic, there's really a thematic thing going on where, well, I mean, I guess I can say the plot of this one, and you might get the idea, is where Team Firespark go on an exploration, and then they somehow meet 4 characters from the Gates to Infinity universe. And then that was the prologue, but it sort of didn't really go anywhere. But I've always kind of, it's those kind of themes, those kind of multiverse kind of thing, kind of it's hard to explain without giving too much away, and what games are sort of inspiring me in that sort of sense. But I have got the hack that I've got, and I've got it on a little bit of a hiatus right now while I'm really focusing on the post game of Retold. Is it's a project that is simply called 4, and what 4 is 4 short stories. I guess it's an anthology hack, and it's just 4 different characters, each with their own predicaments, their own, I guess, challenges that they have to get through, and it really is aimed at the type. It really is a narrative-focused hack. It will be, and really, I think, tries to capture what makes Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I won't say much more about that because there's going to be things in it that I think are going to be quite different, and I kind of even though I've talked about it a lot with, I know and the Discord, some of the Discord knows. I think I want this to be something where when you get to a certain, like, there's going to be a wow factor at a certain point where your idea of this game gets flipped on its head, and yeah, I'm really excited, and this is something that I've been wanting to make for years, and finally this is the vessel in which this is the vessel that I'm using to finally get that creativeness out of me.
That's what it's all about, honestly, getting the creativity out. That's what's so cool about, like we said at the very beginning of the show, like SkyTemple being something that is accessible. So instead of only having, for lack of a better term, I guess, computer-minded people able to access this stuff, we're getting pure creatives who have a very little skill besides their creativity, and they just let it fly. Okay, next question. Another thing that we kind of talked about at the beginning. One thing that people who talk to you probably know, but not the hypothetical listener to this podcast who has not interacted with you, isn't in that Discord server, whatever. You are a self-proclaimed shiller, and you've said before you think unashamed self-promotion is something that's very important for yourself and or the SkyTemple community. Why is that?
I mean, I think some of it is, look, I think it's sort of both pragmatic and selfish at the same time. I think on the selfish side, it's exaggerated. My online persona is exaggerated in that I kind of joke about wanting clout and all that and everything. But it is true that in the internet, like, there is so much that gets sent in the void of the internet that you need something to stand out. You need to almost dedicate yourself to promotion because you want people to give a damn about the stuff that you've created. And I think yeah, I mean, I joke about it. I mean, it's almost talked about ironically now, in the circles, but I think promotion is important because how else are you going to share what you want with the people that you want to see it? And for something to just be sent out there and die, it's actually quite sad. And so I think part of it is just keeping what I make in the public kind of in the public thought, I suppose, for want of a better term. Yeah, I mean, I'm not I personally, I'm not in this for clout or ego, but I kind of have adopted the persona to then kind of shamelessly go, oh, hey, by the way, I make this, or hey, I make this, and it just in general conversation. Like, I just don't go spam Discords and in the self-promotion channels and go, hey, create this. That'll get me banned from so many places. But I think it's just important for for the stuff that you make, you want people to view it and all that. Now, if people don't like it, well, that's a different story. But you want at least people to see it, and I think that's why I kind of shill quite a lot that in a way that's non. It's non. Oh, what's the word? It's not grating, I suppose. It's not something that overstays its welcome, thankfully. But yeah, I'm just saying words here, but hopefully half of them made sense. But yeah, I think
so. Yeah, and
yeah, I think.
Sorry to cut you off. For reference, probably should have said this at the start, but this is generally this community is filled with a lot of people who are pretty humble. A lot of people who, like I said before, kind of like look down on their own work. Not a lot of very proud people. So this guy saying all the time, "Hey, by the way, check out PMD Retold available on YouTube." It's something that kind of stands out. Not necessarily in a bad way, but
yeah,
that's why the question was brought up.
I've kind of adopted this online persona of a chimchar obsessed person that likes shilling his hack. Like the amount of times I've memed for in the chat, and it's just become an in-joke meme now in the communities that I'm in. It's kind of like this is the thing. Like, and then I've got people where like have unironically said, "Oh, I'm from what you've told me and everything, I really want to check out this hack," and it's like,
right,
mission accomplished.
Right.
It's like and I hate to bring up because this will probably be a dead meme by the time this gets uploaded, but it's like Morbius, right? Everyone's talking about Morbius at the moment. I want my hack to be that, but not unironically. Like I want it to be good, unlike Morbius. But yes, it'll probably be a dead meme, and you'll probably cringe when you just heard that word being said, and then you'll cancel me on Twitter.
You heard it here first. 4 is going to be the Morbius of PMD ROM hacks.
But good.
But good. Have to add that.
But good.
Last question. Let's make this interesting. Let's put a time limit on it. In 30 seconds, tell me why is PMD Retold going to win Hack of the Year?
I think PMD Retold is going to win Hack of the Year because I think the characters are fantastic. Not biased there. I think the narrative is stronger than the original game, and I think it's just a joy to watch. I think people have fallen in love with it, and I think it deserves your vote.
Okay, perfect. That was actually a decent bit under 30 seconds, but that's all right. Okay.
Well, I tend to ramble, so you're right. Cut it short.
That's it. That's SkyTemple Podcast Episode 1. We're trying to have this come out every other week. If you've actually watched till the end, and you are
thank you.
Yeah, thank you first of all. And if you're a creator who's trying to get on this show, have us talk about your hack. That's something that we didn't really do this episode, but the plan is that both of us at the start are going to be breaking down some of the little stuff other people might not notice, and also broad strokes as well, I guess, just things that we liked about a particular hack, and then have the interview in the second half. That's kind of the idea. So if you are trying to get interviewed, I know there's a couple of people who've already shown interest, then definitely let us know through whatever means necessary. Both of us, or at least I know I'm available via Discord DMs anytime, and YouTube comments, and what's all the other stuff we said at the start. Tell us if you want this to actually be uploaded on podcast platforms, because I don't know. Comments, concerns, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. Raid Shadow Legends 1 in 1 million. Any other dead memes we missed?
Grammarly,
yep. Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Right. Thanks for watching.
Free advertising.